help like catch the stormwater before it hits the yard. So there's that. And are we gonna walk down?
Yeah, we can walk down.
How does the fire hose work?
So we fill it with we like have to hold it up and open it and fill it with sand. You have to fill it all the way to the bottom, and then pretty much close it back up.
And one of the cool things about the fire hose is that you can reposition it depending on what you find is happening.
Yeah, we were originally going to do rubber razors because we usually do that in a gravel driveway, but because he plows in the winter, that can often like destroy the rubber razors. So they don't always work the best on gravel driveway, but we figured the fire hose is free, donated from fire departments, so it's very inexpensive, and we figured we would just try it, and if it helps, then great. And
so in the winter, do they move it out of the way?
yep, you just slide them off.
They're like portable rubber razors.
Yeah.
You can see this one's working, that it's caught some sand down at the bottom. So cool.
Yeah, so we did 2 of those. Yeah, so just the weight of it keeps it in place. It's just filled with sand. This one.
And then we put mulch here to help the bare soil, because there's a lot of bare soil from the first thing. So mulch helps everything soil better.
Yeah, so this is actually a rain garden, but they just need to add more plants to it, basically, where this back berm is, kind of. So the rain garden kind of flows into this section, which we did, which Christian can explain what that is.
What?
The plants, the bushes.
I don't think we put those.
Yeah, we put all those in.
Oh yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Somebody other than Christian did that.
Yeah, so this is a stream. I guess Dick would know more. It's more perennial, I guess.
It runs almost all year.
Almost all year.
With rain, but it doesn't have a source other than it's draining a fairly good sized section.
Yeah.
Quite a long distance.
Yeah, so it's wet in there, and so this was all basically looked like how the driveway looks right now. So it was completely sand. You can see like there's sand in there from before we were here, so hopefully that won't get any worse. So we call this a vegetated buffer, basically plants and mulch, and it will hopefully protect the stream more than it was before. Before we started, this driveway it was all dirt, but there was no ruts, and then we had a huge storm right before the YCC came, and beyond where this big berm is, there was like a huge washout. So they built this berm after we did the mulch, but we added the mulch to help just again protect all the bare soils. Just getting ground cover down is the biggest thing. And then they also have this well here, which it was funny. It washed out behind the well, or the catch basin. So he was working with his construction team to try to make some improvements there.
Is this a dry well?
I think so.
It doesn't have a discharge, so that's what I was
Yeah.
make sure. Yeah, I'd be surprised.
Just a catch basin that they have to suck out every once in a while.
Yeah.
Oh, it's perforated too, so it can leach out.
It's just a chamber.
Right, yeah.
Maybe it doesn't have a bottom, sometimes they don't have a bottom, it's perforated on the side.
We'd have to put you down.
So it's like
Well, you could, no, if I went in there, to be a confined space.
Yeah, so hopefully this berm, so this is new, we haven't seen this, so hopefully that will, at least if it stops it, maybe it'll pool a little bit more and actually get into the catch basin there. And then the mulch is our expertise this summer.
Ultimately covered with mulch as well, this area here?
I would think so. I mean, any bare soil, it's usually a good idea to do something with it. And mulch is usually really easy. People like the mulch because they don't have to do anything to it. They just kind of spread it, and then, you have to replenish it because it is, woody chunks, so it does decay over time. But other than that, it's pretty easy and low maintenance.
Indestructible. and
Yeah.
it actually works.
Yes.
Instantly works.
I've been seeing a lot more in construction, like around Durham.
Size is important, right? It can't just be
Instantly
any
works.
Yeah, so depending on, so they make different, depending on where you get it from, you can get it a little finer, which if it's more of a flat area, some people, it's the difference between they're not going to do anything or they want the finer mulch. And we've done the finer mulch. It's basically this, but just like slightly less big pieces. And that still works really well, even if it's like, if it's a flat area. If it's a steeper grade, I won't do it, but
And it's a lot easier on the feet.
Did you spread this here?
yeah, we did all the mulch apart from the wood chips on the septic, because they had a septic. I don't know if it's new or if they worked on it, but so part of this hill mulch we did, and then part of it, the wood chips, we did not do. So that was from the
and we
septic. Take a look. So all the crushed stone was what they did as part of their construction. And then they planted all these in the front
Are
themselves.
they gonna mulch this too?
That I'm not sure.
You should.
But the thing with these projects is always like figuring out what people can live with versus what's good for the lake, versus, some people, if you push too much on one end, they just don't want to do anything. So you kind of have to like figure out what what they can live with and what works.
Maybe they're planning to grass this.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's like I said, it's still kind of an ongoing
Right.
influx. So we did a lot of mulch this summer. I don't know where our pictures ended up.
So you did all this stone too?
No.
They did the stone.
Yep.
The stone was existing.
I mean, this stuff is really good for blocking stuff coming down.
Yeah, so this was actually not in our original design. I think he had some other plans for it, and then we had a big storm right before we came that washed out the other side, and he called me and said, come look at it, and then we were like, let's just put mulch down. So this was all just complete new construction, bare, fine soil. And so, in the meantime, especially while they're figuring out what else they want to do, he had talked about maybe doing some more like tiering, I think with some boulders or something. But in the meantime, we didn't want to leave it just sitting. So we just covered it, and it's held pretty
we've
well.
had some torrential storms, so.
Yeah.
We have, now what about gutters? There's no gutters. Is gutters, are they recommended or not? Or,
All new construction in Wakefield, anytime you touch a roof, you've got to put
Infiltration, drip line trenches.
drip line trenches around the whole house, or anywhere with the water.
So that's all the stone, basically, that you're seeing.
oh, okay.
But yes, gutters are a good idea. You can gutter it to a downspout that goes
Right.
to a rain garden.
Yeah.
Or a lot of times
But-
put a dry well or a...
But then you've got to cover the gutters.
Well, that's the thing, in a place like
Or
this,
you
they
gotta take-
clog really
Yeah.
easily.
You
That's
just
pretty
got a
high
lot of
to clean the
hemlocks
gutters.
around.
Yeah, and sometimes if people don't properly deal with their gutters, then it almost makes it worse because it's all channelized in like one spot. So it just kind of depends on how people set it up.
So high.
Yeah, it
Just
would be
to
really
clean-
hard to
just to
make, no
clean
matter
the
how
gutters.
much you screen it, it still tends on, it gets clogged.
You take the
Well,
screens out.
that's a fairly recent regulation that the town of
That's
Wakefield
good.
adopted.
That's good.
So this is Bruce Reed.
Hi.
And this is Pond Road. And actually, this section of Pond Road was identified in the Brackett and Pond Road Management Plan that the UNH Stormwater Center did back in 2011 as, a drainage issue here. And the town has sort of done little piecemeal things, starting with this culvert right here. And so I'll give it over to Bruce to explain what happened, but the most recent thing that sort of has us here today is Bruce got in touch with us and said, I've got a problem, can you come take a look and give me some ideas?
Right.
And, you know, it was like, okay, we're gonna have to get the town in there with excavators. He said, no, I'm just gonna do this myself, I just want some ideas. So Sally and I came out, and 3 days later, it's done. So this guy is remarkable. But, so as Bruce was just explaining, the fix that was recommended in the management plan at the Stormwater Center, the engineering fix, is to take the water on this side of the road that way, and this side of the road that way. Instead, they've taken all the water from this side of the road and all the water from that side of the road and put it in that one hole, which is just,
It's overpowered.
It's
overpowered. It's way inadequate for the amount of flow that comes down. And we've had a couple of good-sized storms come down through here. So
so the next step is negotiating with the landowner over here to see if they're willing to give an easement, and that's sort of a process at this
right. So seeing what you have here now, they did dig a trench along the side of the road, put riprap in there to slow the flow down, and all these plants probably came with the fill when they put the riprap in and stuff, because they're not normal here. So it ran down to a fairly large plastic rather than metal corrugated. So they were planning long term. They were going to do it once and then it was done. Fine. Okay. So they ran this across the road at an angle, which continued to increase the speed. Right. Right. So.
And that was done 5 DPW directions.
Okay. So when this exited, this is all that they had.
Right.
When this exited right here,
Yeah, basically.
this is all that they had. They didn't even have any kind of deep pond or anything started. So it just ran down across the natural terrain here, washed out the leaves, sticks, in addition to any sediment on the road. Right? It followed the lake. It was coming down into what is a natural pond down there where you could actually wade. It starts from nothing and then just gradually gets deeper. So it was ideal for the kids, and it turned it into a swamp. I mean, it was just solid muck that was down there. So, super frustrated, I talked to the town highway department and explained to him that, you've got to do something. What can we do? And he said, well, we'll come by with a backhoe and we'll make a deep pond. Well, their deep pond was one scoop with the backhoe, right? And all that did was it made it so that it continually filled with sand and it continued to travel. So in frustration, I got down here and I dug this out and created the berm around the edge, which handled it pretty well until we started getting these super heavy rains that we were getting. And it breached it. It washed it out. So that's when I got a hold of Linda and said, I need some suggestions. What do I do? The hole has since started to refill. At one point it was 6 feet deep. I'm throwing this stuff out of there like, okay, pretty soon I'm going to hit gold. Never did. So their suggestion, and I've taken that to heart, was that, okay, you've got this will slow it down, you're going to have a breach, okay, and it's going to re-breach. It's going to continue to, no matter how hard you get, it's going to find its way. Now you know where it's going to naturally run off. So from there, build a diversion. So here's the diversion. And this breach this is where the breach was, and it was walking across a leach field. This is their leach field. Right? And then it was running over and down into the lake. So I dug this down, creating a natural diversion for it to run down in here to slow it down further. And dig it, as deep as I could at one point, with time constraints. And so that's about 4.5 feet deep at its deepest. All right, and just kept putting this up and making a natural berm, which, like probably not this year, next year, but eventually that will all vegetate. So that it will wind up having a root structure in there to secure it. So it isn't a natural line of leaves, detritus, from the level of the water. That's how high the water gets in there. And then it will begin to trickle over this. Or if we
And
continue to
you
have a heavy rain.
armored this with the stone there, so.
That's
That will help.
that's all stone and roots and trees and anything I could put into that pile, that berm, all the way around. And that just happened to be the root.
We'll have Zach explain. So as you've kind of probably figured out, we've done a few projects here. So there's some, like the rain garden down there is an older project, the fire hose is an older project, and then Zach will walk us through.
We did add this mulch up right next to the road and down here, and this is kind of acting to do similar to what the fire hose are, just kind of take all the sediment and stuff that's coming off of this steep hill and washing off the road and catch it before it gains too much velocity. And then the stuff down here, this ECM catches whatever's left over. And we did some more of that down here. This was, this pathway right here already was existing, but this part more on the side needed to be dug out, and we dug this out and replenished the stone, along with the mulch in between these water bars. Right?
Yeah, you guys did
Yeah.
this a few years ago when you did that rain garden. You did this.
Yeah, so we replenished this mulch.
Yeah, because this was washing out like in this corner.
From
Yeah,
the water
this-
coming down the hill.
There was a lot of sand, and it wasn't too deep.
Yeah, so the fire hose was directed across into like where this pathway starts, but instead of like some of the water going down the driveway and some of it going here, it was all coming here to like this one corner.
This was all filled in.
And it was all just like, there was a gully right down the side, so it was kind of just missing it. And since you moved it, it hasn't been channelized in like one spot, so hopefully it'll work a little bit better.
So we removed a bunch of stone, and we had a pile of stone here, spread it in, and made it deeper, and took all that sediment that had been building up in this corner out. Rain garden.
Yeah, okay. You didn't really dig this down, you built it up with the stone.
Oh, they dug a huge ditch.
No, yeah,
There's stone down
this
there.
is huge. This hole is probably, what would you say?
3 to 4 feet.
3 to 4 feet deep. So what we do with the rain gardens is we dig a really deep hole, and we fill the bottom with crushed stone, and then loam all the way, almost all the way up, and we create a berm around the outside, like you see, with the loam, or if we have extra dirt, we'll throw dirt on the sides from the inside of the rain garden, and then cover it with the ECM. And so this is really deep. It catches the water and lets it infiltrate, and also allows the plants to grow. All the rocks on the outside armor the berm to make sure it doesn't wash out, doesn't blow out, and the rocks came from inside, just stuff that we dug out. On this hill, because water was washing off the hill, we have some plants, and just surrounded them with mulch to make sure nothing erodes around them. And I don't know if you can see at the top, but there's also this whole area up top connects in over there, and that's all mulch as well with plants. And then we had this pipe right here.
Is that gutter?
Yeah.
Probably drainage from this building.
Yeah, it's from the garage gutter. Correct.
So presumably water comes out here. We just added some extra crushed stone and more rock that we pulled out of here just to make sure this wasn't gonna clog the rain garden with a bunch of sediment.
Great. Yes, but we've had rain, but it's only been here, what, a week, 2 weeks?
Yeah, 2 weeks maybe.
2 weeks.
There have been some big storms.
There have, and it's, other than the mulch, just starting to settle.
Right.
It's been great.
And we have a little outlet here too in case it overflows.
Yeah, this used to be a lawn. When I moved here 20 years ago, all this was a lawn.
Wow,
And
and it's all going into the
all
lake.
went into the lake because of what came down there.
Sure.
There was everything, and there was no barriers here. It just could go into the lake.
Creeping junipers does a great job.
Yeah, So, well, it should just say, it should just spread that. The creeping juniper seems to like it.
Pretty low maintenance on it, yeah.
It's totally low maintenance.
You probably want to yank it right through that.
We got here at 8 in the morning and it was already just like beating. Yeah. Alright, so this is a vegetative buffer we added to. A lot of these plants, like the first row you see, were already existing. But this back row, like starting at that black eyed spruce and then coming down on this line.
So some of the back ones were here. We filled in. We filled in where appropriate.
So we added plants and then we added this mulch to it. And I'm pretty sure I heard Linda talking somewhere. Well, maybe it wasn't you. But somebody was talking. It just kind of catches this water off, and since it's so close to the lake, the mulch ensures that it's not just pouring into the lake, and the plants will absorb any sort of pollutants, and also their root system helps ensure stability in the soil so it's not collapsing into the lake over time. We did a lot of buffers this year, and I think they look really nice, and they work really well too. So, and in past years we hadn't done too many, so it was nice to kind of.
That's something we've been trying to push more. So
We're trying to push plush buffers on level through the Lake Association, because if people can do one thing on their property, they put a buffer in at the lake. That's sort of the best we can get, even though it may not do all the work, but you can't get people to do, to landscape their entire lots. We're trying to push the buffers.
These are three water bars that we put in 2 years ago when we did the rain garden over there. We installed those 2 years ago and put mulch in between like you see now. The mulch had degraded over time and we replenished that just this year. So we filled in between the water bars with more mulch, just to kind of break down the speed of any water coming off of that top hill and then down this hill.
So do you have to dig out behind the water bar over time? Does it fill up with sand?
Yeah, it does fill up, and when we put them in, we dig down deep and then fill it with crushed stone and then crushed stone on the sides and then top it off with soil, leaving a little lip to catch the water. And the crushed stone underneath it and around it not only helps settle it, but it also helps the water infiltrate into the ground.
these also don't clog as much if there's mulch. If there's no mulch, they clog. Yeah, so we did a lot of mulch this year. We definitely had less of a crew than we usually do. Last year we had a really big team, and the year before that we did too. So this year we had like half the people. So we really tried to make sure we chose projects that we could complete and do successfully. So you definitely will see a lot of mulch this year.
Especially at the next site?
Yeah, the next site we did a lot of mulch. But I mean, like I said, a lot of things that we do require maintenance, and mulch is one of the ones that really doesn't. So it's very popular with people. Things like dry wells and anything with stone that's going to be clogged, people don't maintain them, so they just end up failing very quickly. So I tend to, unless you know that people are going to really take the maintenance seriously, try to find other things that you know will be sustaining and lasting. And mulch is usually one of those. So.
Are these treated?
Yeah.
Because I put in one that wasn't not a good idea.
It's probably gone now, huh?
Oh yeah, I had to replace it.
So this was all bare soil, again, just keeping the bare soil covered.
Good. It's perfect.
What do you think the first one?
So as they make mulch, they grind it, then they grind it the second time, then they grind it the third time. So
Yeah, so this was the
second grind
second.
also works
We'd
pretty
stop right
well.
here and catch our breath, and then we'd send it up there.
By that white tree.
Yep. Very rarely.
Really?
Very rarely.
It doesn't move. It's unbelievable.
This year,
stands to help from anything getting down to the water. So it's just basically a piece of rubber with two pieces of wood that just sandwich it together so that it can direct anything from water going down there. So, and then we just put a layer of gravel and dirt next to it as well, just to hold it down. And you can drive over it and everything. So this is what you generally do in a, dirt or gravel driveway. So.
But you can't plow.
Yeah.
You can if you're good with your plow. So a lot of people who like don't really know who their plow guy is, but if you do it yourself or so it depends.
Oh, hi.
Linda.
Yeah, so depends. Depends.
And we don't plow this driveway, so it wasn't a problem for us.
But they work really well and they last. I mean, we've seen some from 10 years ago and they still look completely fine. So
Yeah.
they work.
Depends on wear and tear, obviously, but.
Yeah.
Do you have to like do a lot of cleaning out when after it rains? Is it or
I haven't noticed any of that, no.
And you were an early project, right? Early summer?
Yep.
Yep, right
okay.
away.
Yeah.
So it's been there for over a month now.
Yeah.
And there have been some substantial downpours.
Yep.
Been heavy rains, and we pretty much, I would come out after a big rain in this property and I'd see gullies everywhere. And that's all gone. It's just, everything looks perfect. Where it should be. The water's flowing into the lake, so.
What we want.
Yeah, and if they do clog with sediment, I actually had an old project call me up that her neighbors were all concerned that they had to bring in like heavy machinery to clean one of these out, and she just grabbed her grandkids with a couple of hose and shovels, and that's all you need if it does clog up with sand. So this is another super low maintenance. You kind of just put it in and forget about it for the most part. So it's usually an option people like. All right. So this is an example of some of the thinner mulch. So you may not notice a huge difference, but it's a slightly finer ground. What is it? It's like twice ground maybe? Second grind. Because one of the things that, I think I mentioned before is sometimes people like bare feet, especially with like small kids, the bigger stuff they shy away from. But this has worked really well. It's held.
A great nephew walking around here in bare feet, and he didn't seem to complain.
Yeah. So.
All right, so Bryce, what did we do here?
Yeah, so we basically, we mulch basically almost the entire yard. So it goes all the way down there and around the house. So, yeah, it's just to help, just kind of bare soil, so just help hold everything down, make sure,
Yeah, and especially along the house, I have in the before pictures, you can see what that looked like. You had some pretty good gullies down the side.
I always had to be kind of filling it in just to keep it leveler for walking so you didn't sprain an ankle.
It looked really natural, too.
Yeah.
It looks really good now that it's blended in and settled.
Yeah, when you first put it down, it's like really, really brown, and it's like really eye-popping. But it's nice to see when it's like settled and been here and aged a little.
Can I tell them what the prices were?
Sure. Yeah.
So we paid about $850 for all the mulch.
Where did it get dumped?
Right there, in the driveway.
But it was like 35 yards, right?
40.
Wow.
We
didn't do all of it. Sorry.
Yeah, we got a little extra,
Yeah.
and where there was, they estimated perfectly. We had some extra, so then my son and I just kind of threw it around areas that I wanted just a little thicker. It didn't have to be, but. And then the rest we kind of spread out there, and that's been kind of nice too. Just the water kind of absorbing up there is less run down. So that, I didn't anticipate putting any up there, but it was just a little bit left over. And then the cost for all their hard work was only about $400.
And then you guys had some work done, which ended up being great too.
At the same time, we had a foundation problem, so I had a company come in. They actually had to straighten the wall, my foundation wall, which you can't really see. And so then they had dug a trench right where that stone is, They backfilled everything, of course. And then my brother and I figured out a way to, this wasn't part of the project, and we filled in more and sloped it properly, and I actually kind of looked at what they had done, and then we added stone, and we put this timber in because I was copying what Ala had done. And now any water coming off that roof is going to slope down, and it's not going to go into our basement. And that's worked well with all the heavy rains we've had. It's dry as a bone in there.
Wow.
So that wall I don't think will be compromised anymore.
Is this an old cottage?
1937.
I thought so. Wow. Really special.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been here for 52 years.
Oh, wow.
So I know every inch of this property.
Yeah.
So it's...
Looks great.
Yeah, and it, you know, just trying, my sister is very passionate. Jerry and I own it with my sister and brother-in-law. And they were really excited about doing this whole project too.
So our next project we did here, we did some drip line fences, and then so the normal was 18 inches, and then we did surrounded it by pressure treated wood, just to make sure that the mulch and the stone didn't get mixed and clogged together. That's what we wanted to do. So that will protect from any rain coming off the roof from, again, eroding away, so it goes right down into the gravel, which sends it down to the ground. So yeah, and so we did this section, and then we'll go on the other side of the house, and then we did a much bigger one on the other side of the house. So yeah, that's this way.
Oh, I see. What a great name.
Alright, so then this was just the other drip line fence we did, so it was a lot longer. So again, same thing, processing of water falling off the roof, just protecting it from it's a little different. It's on a side of it, a little slope to it. So.
How far down did you go?
Probably like 18 inches,
I think
18
about
to
20,
20. Yeah, some parts deeper. And usually so because it's boxed in, it's also like a little bit higher, whereas so, sometimes depending on the situation, it might just be flush with the ground. But I think this sometimes it looks more finished, and especially with the mulch, keeping that out, especially because it's finer, out of the stone, I thought was important.
But we also notched all of the boards that were together so they sat more flush.
Yeah, so if you want to explain how the notching is.
So if you see right here, you have a notch cut, and a piece of rebar goes through both of them, and it just makes the whole thing look more finished. And like a lot of times when they settle, they'll either like pull apart or they'll like sink down in the middle. But the notching it makes that less.
It keeps it together.
It keeps it more stable and just looking better. It's aesthetic and it's practical. So that's what I would like.
I'm glad you did that because they did that in this house.
Mhm.
You go up on the porch and there's a beam, two beams meeting. That's exactly what they did.
Yeah.
You guys just kind of brought that technology right up.
Very high tech.
Yep. It's 2 3/4 inches here, 5 1/2 down. I have it memorized now. It's like burned into the back of my eyelids.
The other thing was digging these trenches. There was roots coming from these pines, and every foot or so there was this huge root. And I didn't want any of them cut, just so we wouldn't harm the trees. And they were great. They went around them. There was only one root that had to be removed, one root. So they really did a good job. And then I was amazed how deep they went too. So they did work very hard to do these.
Looks fabulous. And obviously works, because this was almost 2 months ago now.
Yeah, I think the biggest area where I see improvement is coming off that front roof. You had the main building and then the porch. So there's a sheet of water coming down there. And we would just have gravel and everything else just go down into the lake. Number of years back, we had so much erosion, all the roots were showing of those pine trees. And, you know, then you run the risk of losing the pine, so that's all corrected now. So, and I like, you know, boats coming by, they don't see the big lawn, which I think everybody should try to discourage on the lake. I don't know, it's, so I'm happy that this group is doing well and providing